Welcome to Tracking the Cats. We got your co-hosts here with you today, Steve White and Bob Sabin, and this is a special edition of Tracking the Cats. We had to put this one together. We had to get it online, right, Steve? Because the
Right.
Wofford football game yesterday was just incredible. You were there, and I wasn't, unfortunately. So tell me right off the bat your thoughts with your hoarse voice, please.
Yes, incredible for a lot of different reasons. That's right. Yeah, I called it one of the most gut-wrenching wins and one of the most frustrating couple of hours I've sat through in a long time. Momentum seemed to change, Bob, about every 3 or 4 minutes of that ball game, but it was something. Like I say, it had more momentum changes than Cullowhee's weather. It was really interesting from the outset. Interesting and a very effective defense by Wofford. I don't know if you saw this or not, but they were running a six deep secondary about 12 to 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, off the line of scrimmage. Tiger adjusted. They were not going to let him throw the deep ball.
Right.
That was going to be a no. And so he adjusted, and instead of trying to throw deep, it was 6, 8, 10-yard passes right down the field, and he did it all day. In fact, he did it 46 times
You
consecutively,
know,
which was a new national record by throwing 8 and 10-yard passes. Now, a few of them were more than that, but there were a lot of them. Some of them less than that. But it was really interesting, and give Wofford credit. They knew what they could and couldn't do, and they couldn't be able to cover us with regular, just your generic defense. They had to come up with something special, and they did, and it was effective
it
for
definitely
us.
was effective because it held us to those short passes, which,
Yes.
by blocking out the deep pass, it did give us we have so many options for receivers, and how many different
Yes.
receivers did we have yesterday? 7, 8?
Let's see. Actually, we only had like five different receivers. Now, they caught a lot of passes, 13, 8, 7, and 7. And so these were more of the guys, they were the deep pattern guys, as I guess
Right.
you
We
would
had
speak. These were the intermediate short passing one. But yeah, it was it was something to watch. It was quite
I
different.
was watching here in Georgia, so I got to hear Gary and Hooker call the game while I was watching on the ESPN feed with the volume down, so I didn't have to listen to those Wofford announcers. But
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
fun to watch in one way,
Yeah.
frustrating to watch in another. As the pass count kept growing and Hook was going, I don't think anybody's ever done more than 30, and
Yeah.
it just kept going. The momentum was
Yeah.
great. On the other hand, we're I'm hearing him talk about why are they why are the officials not calling some of those calls? Like the first call that was not the first pass that was not received, the guy was all over us. It should have been a pass
Yeah.
interference penalty. And then on the other side of the ball, when Wofford had the ball, time and time again, you're seeing hands-on jerseys and no call. No call
Well,
whatsoever, except for the call from the backfield for us holding after the
yeah.
play was over. It was like,
Well, Bob, it was I just don't like to criticize. I guess back from the days, I was working at Western, and I wasn't allowed to criticize
right.
the officials in public or anything like this. But it was just so inconsistent, and they could not make up their minds. They had more huddles than an NFL game. It was just excruciating to watch, and some of the decision making and just delay in making calls or not making calls. It was not a good day for that officiating crew, I'll tell you that right now. It was, and I'm interested to see after the supervisor officials maybe looks at that video. I'm sure Coach Bell's staff's going to point out a lot of things to them, and that's the way you do it. You send it in and you make emphasis. Oh, here are like 10 things you need to look at and pinpoint them and see what happens. But they did not have a good day, and it was just so inconsistent and so indecisive at so many times.
Yeah.
It was It was tough to
Yeah.
watch, and that's another reason why I have my voice is hoarse today. Not that I would ever, holler at an official,
No, no, I'm sure it was all cheering
Yeah,
as Western accomplished things, right? That's where you
yeah,
lost the voice.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
One thing that impressed me yesterday, though, was our defense. Yeah, there were a couple of big plays. Yes, we had the kickoff, the run back for a touchdown. We did not let them break loose on many plays
No,
yesterday at all. We
yeah,
were all over. They couldn't get a run game going, and
yeah.
that showed. And then we had a couple of pass breakups that were amazing, just out of the air, knocked that
Yes,
ball
yeah.
down. So I was much more pleased with the way the defense played yesterday than probably any game of the last five. So,
Yeah. Yeah, two big plays in the entire game for Wofford. That first drive, that like what 48-yard pass play, and then the punt return, which had nothing to do with really a defense. That was a special teams
right.
thing. But 8 first downs, Bob.
Yeah.
8 first downs, all Wofford had. 241 yards of total offense. That's the lowest total I've seen an opponent have in a long time in
Yes.
a Western Carolina game. And Jordy Thompson, boy, I really thought he stood out yesterday. Sort of evolved. He really looked good, and there were some very nice, plays in this ball game. And yeah, like I say, I agree with you. I think the defense stepped up. Not that Wofford's offense is going to be in the elite part of the Southern Conference structure this year. Their defense is, but their offense is not a great offense right now. They struggled a little bit, but again, I really think when we needed to, they did step up. Yeah, they really did.
Yep, I agree. And the final thing, the winning play for us was I'm really pleased with this Marcus Trout,
Oh
our
yes,
kicker, because he stepped on the field as a freshman at the beginning of the season, being a backup, possibly even third team kicker, and he has stepped up, but he's got the credentials. Personally, I
yeah,
got a chance to talk to him and his family a year ago when he was being recruited. I bumped into him in the school store when I was buying a shirt or something. And I talked to the family, and they were very impressive. And he's got a great pedigree. He was all star, all senior. He was special teams player of the year in high school 2 years ago. So we knew that if we could get him to agree to come, he'd be a good player for us. And by golly, he's done
yeah.
well so far. The first field goal that it got blocked, that was not his fault.
Well, yeah, it was not a good snap.
Right.
First of all, it was a mishandled ball and so forth. That was not his fault. And like I say, you were talking about him. I was really worried when we lost Lowry early in the season with the injury because he really played well at the end of the season last year. Well, second half of the season, he kicked the ball extremely well. But that was a pressure packed. Again, there's a lot of everybody. Okay, why we take that delay? Well, I really think there was a reason behind that delay in the game, that penalty we got at the end, because it gave him a better angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people didn't see that. They thought it was mismanaged clock, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
and
That
even
was
even
basically, yeah,
Gary and Hooker were talking
yeah,
about that, but
yeah,
you're
yeah,
right. He did have a better angle, but that first shot, but boom, right through the middle.
yeah.
So,
Right.
I think that just had to give him more confidence to set up a second time. Even if 5 yards further back, it was still what, a 38 yarder or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. That's nothing this day and time.
yeah. Anything else you want to say?
Well, just looking at that game, of course, everybody knows by now 46 consecutive completions, 53 out of 56 for Tiger in that game, 378 yards, three touchdowns. James Tyre, goodness gracious, targeted 13 times, Bob, caught all 13 passes. All 13 passes for three touchdowns. That's back-to-back games for this guy. He's a North Georgia boy, and down where you are from, and a redshirt freshman. He was a high school quarterback.
Yeah.
He was not a wide receiver and a heck of a baseball player, I understand, but a high school quarterback. And I see his parents every game, get to talk to them. But that young man, he has taken over. I call him Columbo Jr. Now, because he has stepped into that role
Yeah.
and really just we haven't missed a lick. I mean, we'd love to have Colombo back right now, but we might at the end of the season, according to how the season's going. I think after that knee surgery and so forth. But James Tyre, he has become a star in this offense.
And that in itself speaks a lot because Dickens got a second record yesterday, NCAA record for pass completion percentage,
Right.
right? And it was
Yeah. Right.
94.6, essentially
Yeah.
95%.
Yeah, 53 of
Right.
56. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable. I mean, throwing 56 times is quite an
Yeah,
accomplishment.
I know.
Yeah.
And the last thing was time of possession. We almost doubled
Yeah.
it up on them. We almost had them
Oh,
40
well, it was
minutes to 20. It was 38,
yeah,
39.
it was amazing. Yeah, 30 almost 39 minutes to just over 15 minutes for
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Yeah,
But
for the entire
but that
Yeah.
says how many times we had to drive down the field slowly,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 yards at a
Yeah.
time, and so it was good. And the last thing, second last thing, is who was our rushing leader yesterday?
Okay, here, looking right here at the stat sheet was Patrick Boyd with 40 yards and Dickens had 36. So, that was very unusual. Tiger actually carried the ball or scrambled 18 times in the
And if he
ball
hadn't
game,
been
which
sacked,
is not by design, not by
if he
design.
hadn't been
Yeah.
sacked, he would have been the rushing leader, but he got picked
Yeah, yeah.
down a couple of times.
And it was scary. He took some real licks in that ball game. He really did, and that we don't want that to happen again.
Right.
So we'll see. But that had a lot to do. Give Wofford defense their defense is credit. A very well coached defense. They had a great plan, and it almost worked.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Fortunately, it didn't. Yeah.
So let's move on to a couple other things going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right now, only three unbeaten teams, Bob. Right now, Catamounts is one of those. Mercer, of course, is now after a slow start, 4-0 now. They've played a lot of conference games early, so that means they're going to get to maybe relax a little bit later in the season. And of course, the other purple team from down in South Carolina is coming up next week. They're 2-0, and the Catamounts are 2-0, and that is you look at right now what was predicted to start with. East Tennessee, I don't know if you know how that game went yesterday, East Tennessee State Furman, but East Tennessee was driving to tie the ball game or win in the last minute of the ball game through a pass, a desperation pass that was picked off by the Furman defensive back at the 5-yard line, returned it 95 yards to seal that win for Furman. That was actually the last play of the
Yeah, I
ball
have a
game.
good friend who was
So
there. We were talking about it after the game.
yeah,
Ugh,
so Furman is really fired up about this game, I'm sure. And after the whipping that they took last year, and I don't know, there's another word for it. They got demolished last year. Of course, you remember that 52 points we put up, over 800 yards. Cole Gonzalez setting all those records, was National Player of the Week for that performance down there. And
in
Coach Clay
Greenville, so that
Hendricks,
that was
yeah,
even
yeah.
sweeter.
Yeah, Coach Clay Hendricks was not very happy after the ball game and let Coach Bell know about that after it said like we were running up the score and so forth. And I'd like to tell him a few times that I've accused them of running up the score on us over the years, but people forget that type of stuff. But Paladins, I thought very impressive. They've really turned it around. Trey Hedden yesterday, 358 yards passing. Gavin Hall, 101 yards rushing. They've really solidified their offense after a slow start, and they're starting to play better defense. This is going to be some kind of battle Saturday at our
Yeah,
stadium.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
definitely going to have to play our best game of the season.
Oh yes,
Do seem
definitely,
to be
definitely.
tuning it up one game at a time, though, which is good.
Yes, right.
Chattanooga, the big question mark at the beginning of the season.
Oh my goodness, you talk about a question mark. I mean, they really struggled yesterday against VMI on the road,
Yeah,
and they have gotten trounced. Citadel just wore them out. They're struggling right now. East Tennessee State, I really still think is a very good
I agree.
football team, and it could something big come down. that will be our last home game in November. I think that one around the 15th or something
Yeah,
like this.
yeah,
They come into town, and that'll still be a big ball game. But that was a huge one yesterday, and East Tennessee coming off of a tough loss, the week before. But again, look at the Citadel. They did not look very good early, and then they turn around. They're playing much better. So every game is going to be a challenge. It's just going to be just one of these, sort of like what we saw yesterday, could come down to that type of conclusion for both our
there
teams.
there
Yeah,
there
yeah,
are no
yeah.
easy games that we're going to
No.
see this season for sure. And but like I said, we appear to be getting better, getting more comfortable with our people. Still a ton of injuries. When he read the injury list before the game yesterday, I was like, really? Because we had like seven
Yeah.
guys who were not able to start yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. We could use Branson Adams. I wish we had him back in that backfield because he is a stronger, bigger, harder run, and this is where we have some problems on those, 3rd and 2 plays and 3rd and 4 plays, and the other team stacking you up against the
Exactly.
pass, and you are not, yeah, that's another story.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
So, okay, now we can move on to soccer.
Yes.
Ladies soccer this
Yeah.
afternoon is playing at Citadel. They're getting kicked off in a few minutes, but so far they're looking pretty good.
Yeah.
How did we lose
This
to Furman a week ago? One
Well,
nil.
I tell you that the Furman coach told Coach Chad Miller after that ball game, he said, "I don't know how we won." They said that was a great offensive performance by your team. We're just unbelievable the number of shots this team's getting on goal and everything like this, and it just not for some reason not going in. I don't know if we've got great goalies in the Southern Conference or not, but this I really think that this Western Carolina team is as good or better than last year's team that won the regular season. But right now they're 2-1-1 in the conference, playing like I say at the Citadel today, and they're back home Friday against Wofford, which is not having a great season. But it's going to come down. It's really very competitive this year. Furman obviously is pretty good by beating us. Sanford's always good. That's going to be nothing. And Chattanooga, East Tennessee State are having really good seasons. So it's going to be a heck of a Southern Conference soccer championship race this year. And the tournament could be something else. And that's why important to win that regular season and get to host the championship like we did last year here in
Well,
Colorado.
if we can continue what we've done in the last few games,
Hmm. Yeah,
possession. I mean, when you get 30
yeah,
shots against Furman, when you get 36 shots against VMI,
yeah,
you've got possession, right? You're dominating
yeah,
the game in the skill side of things.
yeah.
But anything can happen in soccer because, one wacky, maybe it bounced off of one of our players and
Right.
and goes in for a quote unquote own goal, and you lose. So we've got to definitely do a better job of making those shots count.
Yeah, yeah. But that 9-0 win over VMI, that if you're thinking about baseball or football, something like that, you're talking about probably in football a 40-0 win or something
Yeah.
like that. In baseball, 25
Yeah,
runs or
9 to
something like
nothing
that.
doesn't
That's how
happen.
you equate that. Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
watching professional soccer here in Atlanta for the last 10 years and 8
yeah,
years, and we have 2 games where matches where we've scored more than 5 points in all that time.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a that was a statement for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Isabella DeMarco's playing down at the Citadel this afternoon after that hat trick against VMI 3 goals, and that is her hometown. She went to Bishop England High School there in Charleston, so who knows what guy she could have another super day
Well,
in that
she'll have
one.
some
But
fan
yeah,
support, which is good.
yes, 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 yeah,
So let's look at volleyball. They have had a less auspicious start, but
right,
they've done okay, and
yeah.
they're 2-2
They're
in the
trying to get
conference.
back in, yeah, trying to get back into the Southern Conference race, and they took a good step with that 3-1 win last night over UNC Greensboro. They're back to 2-2 in the Southern Conference, so they're not out of the race by any stretch. Now, this Thursday they've got Chattanooga coming in, and then Friday night again. That would be Friday
Right.
against with Chattanooga, and then at home again with Sanford. So they got uh, two home matches coming up that could really make them healthy. Say if they could win those 4-2 coming out of that homestand, they'd be right back up in the championship race. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything else that we need to talk about? We have a fall schedule for softball, and tennis only
Right.
has a few matches going on in the fall. So
Yeah.
we have some.
Yeah. Tennis.
Go ahead.
Tennis is down at Clemson this weekend against some real tough competition. Cross country, I think, has only one more meet before the conference championship. I think that's at Upstate down in Spartanburg on the 18th, and then the championship, Southern Conference Championships, November the 1st
Right.
for cross country. Right.
And then the golf teams have a couple more matches. I had it pulled up, and I
Right.
don't have it right in front of me.
Boy, the men's team is really playing extremely. Had a great match over here at Waynesville in JT Poston Invitational. Almost pulled that one out against some very good competition. Then went up to Pennsylvania in that West Virginia tournament, which is actually being played in Pennsylvania, and played extremely well against a very impressive list of Penn State, West Virginia, people like that competition. So I tell you, men's golf team really right now impressive looking, and might, I think, going to be a legitimate Southern Conference championship contender this year. Yeah, for the first time in several years. Yeah.
That's good. All right. Well, that
Yeah.
about wraps this special edition, as I was saying, version of Tracking the Cats. We've got
Yeah.
another actual full interview coming up this week. Tell us about that, Steve.
Okay, we're going to have Todd Raleigh, the ex-Catamount All Southern Conference catcher, and of course, one of our coach that took us to two Southern Conference championships coming up. And he's more known, I guess, now
Now,
as Cal Raleigh's father. Yes, but he's out there right now in Seattle watching the Mariners play. They lost last night to Detroit in extra innings. But this is going to be very good. And just one little thing, if you haven't had a chance to read it, there's a article in Sports Illustrated in the September issue, last month's issue, and you can maybe find it online. It's digital, also print. Sports Illustrated only prints once a month
right.
now, and you can do it digital or print. And it's called Glute Force, Glute Force. Yeah, as in
Good.
gluteus maximus.
Yes. Got it.
Force. And it is a heck of an article talking about Cal Raleigh, and a lot of it about Todd, about his makeup and why he is what he is like, a manager on the field, and not so much the home runs, just talk about how he got there. Really interesting. But this will be a great conversation. We might have another announcement about Todd Raleigh when we do get him on here on Wednesday and so forth. And a couple other quick things, Bob. As the skybox, the last steel beam in the skybox went up this week. They've now finished all the superstructure, the steel work for that, and now they'll start filling in, with the floors and everything. But I got to autograph the last steel beam as it reached the top of the skybox frame and all that stuff. So my name's on it. And they told me that the reason they did that was because I was denied an elevator in the old press box back in 1973 when we built the one at Whitmire, and almost, how many times I've been up and down those steps and so forth. That was the first thing they took out of the project when they started running short of the money. So they said that this will be where the elevator ends at that piece of frame. So I got to autograph it because they put it on the crane to take it up Friday.
That's great.
So,
I was going to ask, how did
and
you get up there
yeah.
to autograph it?
No. It was on the ground. Yeah. Yeah. And one other thing, there's a really good piece on Western Wednesday, Western's alumni site. A great interview with James Hogan and Lacey Miller with Zebby Matthews. And a lot of people forget about Zebby, a major league pitcher now with the Minnesota Twins, native of Cullowhee, actually Caney Fork. And I think you would really enjoy. People would like to go online and see it. It's on YouTube and so forth. But they did a great job of going. Actually, went to Minneapolis to interview him there in the stadium.
Yeah,
So
if you go to
watch out for Zebby. Yeah,
WCU.edu and then do a search on
yeah,
Western Wednesdays, and you'll be able to pick that
yeah.
up.
Right. Yeah. I think Zebby's going to have actually a good major league future. I really do.
Very cool. All right. Well, that about wraps this special edition of Tracking the Cats, as always, brought to you by Stanberry Insurance, with offices in Silva, Waynesville, Clyde, and Highlands. So stop by there if you ever need any insurance for, and I need insurance on my body right now after
Me,
yesterday's game.
both of us.
But that does it for this edition. We will see y'all again this Wednesday with another full edition of Tracking the Cats.